Welcome to the SBR NHL Ice Guys. It's Thursday, February 22nd. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Dana Lane and Alex B. Smith. If you're a hockey fan, some of you might have been watching that women's Olympic gold medal game last night, so you might be a little bit hungover, a little bit tired from that, but here we are. We're still ready to break down an NHL card as we always are here on the show, ready to get to business. Andrew should be joining us as well momentarily. So we're going to get right to it and start at the top of the card with Minnesota, New Jersey, 51-52. Got no line on this game as of yet. We've got the New Jersey Devils coming off a 2-1 loss the other night against the Columbus Blue Jackets, breaking up what was a good winning streak going for New Jersey. They had won 4 straight going into that hockey game. Minnesota, on the other hand, they've been idle since a Monday afternoon holiday game against the New York Islanders. Took care of business in a high-scoring affair in that game against the Islanders, who continue at times to show just how much of a lack of respect they show at times for the defensive end of the ice. And Minnesota able to take advantage of that with the win against the Islanders earlier this week. We'll see if they can keep it going here tonight against the New Jersey Devils. For me, it's a game I'm probably not going to be much involved in at this point in time. Unfortunately, New Jersey came up short for me the other night. And, Minnesota, obviously, on the road, we know I've had issues with them, trying to back them, trying to trust them to win games on the road. But Minnesota is playing overall some better hockey of late. We'll see if they're able to keep that going tonight against the New Jersey Devils. Alex B. Smith, in wanting to talk Wild and Devils. Of course, we know the Wild are always on his list of games to talk about every day, pretty much. Alex, what are you looking at here with the Wild and Devils? Anything interest you in this game?
Well, there's a couple of keynotes. It's going to be Alex Stalock in net tonight instead of Devin Dubnyk. This will be his first start since February 3rd. He's 8-9-2 on the year. He looked pretty good. It was, I think, around early December where he got some starts. And Dubnyk was kind of battling some injury, and he looked decent. But ever since then, the starts that he's gotten, he got pulled out of that last start, December 3rd, against it was like the game against Dallas. They ended up losing. He just hasn't been really, he's been just a kind of a mediocre backup. He's kind of regressed to the norm that we've seen his entire career. So I may be looking here at New Jersey. They've won 5 of the last meetings against the Wild. They're 7-3. Obviously, it goes back a while because they only play twice a year. But you have a record like that, and you got a Devils team that was riding high and then coming off of a tough loss. Like I said, they're in that division where points are a premium every single game from here on out. I think we might see, like I said, a good effort from a home team tonight with the Devils. That's the side I'll be looking on once those numbers come out.
All right, New Jersey with Alex Stalock in net for the Wild tonight. Of course, Minnesota's on a back-to-back. They're in New York against the Rangers tomorrow night, so obviously they're going to be rolling with Devin Dubnyk in that game, giving him the night off, giving him some rest here. So as a result, yeah, Stalock, it's sometimes very capable of giving you a really good game, but there's also times where he's not exactly the rock you need in between the pipes. So for Alex, he'll be looking at New Jersey when this number comes out. Next game, we got New York taking on Toronto, Islanders and Leafs, 53-54 on the rotation here. In this game, it's Toronto laying a massive price, -225 to -230. The total, 6.5, shaded to the over, -115, -120. This is going to be a game played at an extremely fast pace, and there's going to be chances. There's going to be chances in bunches. Now, the question is there going to be enough chances and enough conversion of those chances to get over a 6.5? I was leaning over, but I'm telling you, 6.5, and you got to lay juice on it. It's not easy now to get there with a wager now on these Islander games over the total, even though they, for the most part are still finding ways to get up and over like they did in their last game against Minnesota. There's going to be chances, but you can't overlook the fact that in this game, at least on the one side of the equation, not so much the Islanders side, although Halak and Grice had given them a couple of games where they played better, struggled again against Minnesota, but especially from the Toronto side, they're getting incredible goaltending right now. I mean, Frederik Andersen is locked in. He's in the zone. That could be trouble if you're going to back this game over the total. That's my other issue. I mean, even though you're going to get chances, Frederik Andersen's facing A-grade chances every single night, A-quality chances. The Leafs are still giving up a few too many high-danger chances on a nightly basis, but he's turning away most of them, and he has been that strong and that sharp in net for the Leafs, not only all season, but particularly as of late. So that's the one concern there. It's going to have an overfield to it. It's going to have a boatload of chances. I'm sure there's going to be power play opportunities. Going to be good pace because both teams play that way. But you're just concerned that 6.5 over -120. The price with it, it's not exactly a bargain. And if Frederik Andersen plays anything like he did against Florida the other night, he was marvelous in that game, shutting out the Panthers. 40 save shutout for him in that victory for the Leafs. It could be a little bit of an impediment to getting this game over the total when it's all said and done. So, for me, I had the lightest of leans to the over, but I'm not really in love with it at this particular number. Toronto, obviously, I prefer them over the Islanders, but not at -230. So it's a game I decided, better opportunities on the card today. So moving on to the next one, Columbus, Philadelphia, 55-56. Philadelphia -115. Home favorite here. The total 5.5, shaded to the under in this hockey game. Should be an interesting one here between these two teams. Columbus snapped their losing streak. Needed a win desperately in the worst way. First game without their captain, Nick Foligno, in the lineup. He's sidelined with a lower body injury for at least the next couple of weeks, and Columbus was able to overcome that for one game, take down New Jersey 2-1. Solid bounce back win. Very concerted, solid effort in their own zone, particularly. Kept New Jersey at bay. Cleaned up some things, some shortcomings that they had defensively. Again, the Pittsburgh game stands out where they were just awful from the start in their own zone and got behind the 8 ball early, never able to recover. Good win for Columbus there, but now they're playing a Philadelphia team that is surging right now. Comeback win to beat the Montreal Canadiens 3-2. Just another way for Montreal to find to lose a game. More of the same from them in that one. They had a lead actually over Philadelphia late. Flyers tie it, end up winning in overtime, 3-2 over the Canadiens. And very possibly we'll see a Peter Mrazek sighting for the very first time as a Philadelphia Flyer in this game. Alex Lyon got the start against Montreal. Very more likely we're going to see Peter Mrazek tonight making his Flyers debut against this Columbus team. The way I see it, I'm getting a pretty darn cheap price here, -115 at most spots with Philadelphia. I'm going to go in with the Flyers. I know Columbus had that step-up effort, snapped a losing streak against New Jersey the other night, but Philadelphia's playing really good hockey. And then when they get down in games, and they showed it against Montreal the other night, they're finding ways to come back. They're capable, at least, of finding ways to come back and still win. I like seeing that kind of mindset and that kind of mentality in a hockey team. We're down in the third period. We're not out of this thing. They showed that against Montreal. So from a price standpoint, Philly playing good hockey at home, just laying a reasonable -115 number. Jackets still a little bit of a banged up hockey team. I know they fought through it and won the other night, but doesn't mean you're going to be able to do that every night. So give me Philadelphia here -115. That'll be my first official play on this Thursday card. The Flyers to take care of business -115 tonight against the Philadelphia Flyers. Next one, we've got Tampa Bay taking on Ottawa. In this one, 57-58. Tampa -185, -200. Actually, some Ottawa money coming in. Interesting. Ottawa, second night of back-to-backs after playing in Chicago last night. Actually taking some money against Tampa here in this game. The total 6, shaded to the over. This is a game where very much Tampa Bay could come to close to and maybe exceed the total by themselves, because this Ottawa Senators team not very good in their own zone. They lose 3-2 last night in a shootout to the Chicago Blackhawks, continuing to give up way too many chances, way too many shots. Tampa Bay lethal on offense right now. We saw that the other night. Nice 4-2 win for them against the Washington Capitals. They had actually struggled a little bit, Tampa. 3 losses in 4 games prior to beating Washington. Got off the schneid. Good, solid victory for them. Tampa Bay, I think, is going to be able to light the lamp a ton. It was Mike Condon last night, so you should see Craig Anderson back in net tonight for the Ottawa Senators, taking on this Tampa Bay team, which, again, you're seeing everybody contribute. And I know a lot of people have talked about Kucherov and Stamkos all season. They've been very, very good in terms of scoring goals. But Braden Point's the unsung hero of this team. He has been absolutely fantastic, consistent all year round, been really good of late from an offensive production perspective. And he's been a big help to this Tampa Bay team. Very talented player. And he's a big reason why Tampa Bay has been able to show off the amount of depth they have this season because of performances like what Braden Point has been able to bring to the table for this team. So for me, I wouldn't even argue with Tampa Bay puck line here, -1.5 goals. That's not a terrible thought either. I think they could win this game by margin. You got Ottawa on a back-to-back spot. Ottawa not playing good defensively. I think Tampa Bay puck line is the lean. For me, I'll be on the over for sure. Been riding these Ottawa overs a lot lately, especially against these more potent teams. Not totally shocked the game against Chicago last night stayed under because Chicago's not what I call a potent offensive team, especially lately. You see Ottawa's games against the Rangers went over the total on Saturday. The Nashville game on Monday went over the total because you're playing really good offensive teams that move the puck quickly, play with a lot of pace. Tampa Bay certainly does that. So I think Ottawa's going to have their hands full. So I lean to the Tampa puck line. Wouldn't be talk anyone out of making that bet, but for me, I'll just go with the over here. 6 -115 between the Lightning and Senators. Senators something like 5-2 to the over as well in their last 7 games. And Tampa Bay's on a crazy overrun. I think they've cashed over tickets in 7 or 8 straight, including the Washington game. Assuming you got the Washington game at 5.5, because that was one of those games where the total was 5.5 in some spots, 6 in some other spots. So depends on where you got it. But either way, you're looking at no worse than a push betting Tampa over game in, game out lately. So I'll go over 6 in this game, Lightning and Sens tonight on the card. Rangers, Montreal, 59-60. No line for this game. Really no opinion for me on this game either. I don't like either team right now, the way they're playing. You can't like Montreal coming home off a dismal road trip. How about Montreal? You think about is there a worse situation to back this team than tonight? First of all, they stink. First of all, their current form is non-existent. They're playing horrible hockey at both ends of the ice. They don't score enough. Defensively, they're a mess. Carey Price just isn't the same right now either. And from a scheduling and spot perspective, it's horrible for Montreal. It's the first game home off this long road trip they've had, which included some games out west against Colorado, Arizona, Vegas. This is a horrible spot for Montreal. And then you combine that with the current form, which is lousy. What case can you make for Montreal in this game? You can't. I mean, at least not for me. It's a double whammy of shit right now for this Montreal team. It's a shit spot tonight, and it's an awful, you're playing awful hockey on top of that. Question is, can you trust the Rangers? And I don't, because I think this team sees the writing on the wall. Their defensive play is not good by any stretch of the imagination. And in fact, I believe the New York Rangers, if I'm not mistaken, I thought I saw something along these lines. They're going to be going in a much different direction from a goaltending perspective tonight. They're going with some young kid, Alexander Georgiev, in net here for the New York Rangers tonight against the Montreal Canadiens. Called him up. I don't know if this is going to work or not. We'll see. The good news is you're going in there for your first start against a Montreal team that can't put a puck in the ocean half the time. So maybe that gives this kid a little chance to ease into the NHL, to playing at the NHL level, get comfortable, maybe not have to face bombardment of shots right away. Who knows? But this is the Rangers defense. They could still give up a ton of shots early in this game. Who knows? But yeah, for me, there's a lot of negative issues and negative play, especially defensively, from both of these teams right now swirling around them, that I have no interest in picking a side here in this game. Actually, I don't actively look at betting Montreal games over the total. I just don't. But I might make an exception tonight because the Rangers, I don't know if I trust them defensively. Montreal's a mess. Rangers should get on the board. So I'd lean over. But for me personally, I'm going to stay away from it in all likelihood. Buffalo, Detroit, 61-62. We got no line here on this game either between these two teams. Detroit Red Wings are a bet against team for me, and I've now done that 2 games in a row. Took Toronto against them on Sunday, winner there. Nashville on Tuesday we had against Detroit, and they took care of business in that game. Detroit, to me, the writing's on the wall. We see Peter Mrazek traded already by this team. They're going to be sellers at the deadline. And this Little Caesars Arena, this brand new arena, first season for it, it's not exactly brought the Detroit Red Wings a boatload of success. I mean, their home record is mediocre at best this season. The question is now, can the Buffalo Sabres give you anything reasonably good in terms of an effort? I actually would lean a little to the Sabres in this game. I'll see what the price is, if it's attractive enough for me to pull the trigger. But, Buffalo, the other game against Washington, they didn't play that bad. And in fact, there were extended stretches of that game where against the Capitals, Buffalo had better puck possession, better looks at the net, better offensive zone time. than the Washington Capitals. So it was one of those games where, despite the loss, I think the effort was decent from the Buffalo Sabres in that game. And I think just overall, the last few games, just this last little swatch of games for the Red Wings and for the Sabres, I've seen a little bit better out of the Sabres than I've seen out of the Red Wings, to be honest. And, Jimmy Howard to me is not quite Peter Mrazek. I think Peter was the better of the two goalies, to be honest with you. Jimmy Howard, very, very erratic. He's capable of stealing a game every now and then, but that seems to only happen once every 10 or 15 games out of him. Most of the time, you're going to get a very beatable average goaltender in there with Jimmy Howard in between the pipes. So, I'm not locking it in for sure yet because, again, I got to see a price and a line and a number before I ever bet something. And I know Dana Lane's mentioned that a lot of times that, hey, I got to see a number before I can give you a really good opinion on it. But for me, I'll be making a case for Buffalo, or at least trying to back their side here in this game against the Detroit Red Wings. Next up, we've got Washington and Florida, 63-64. Florida minus 115, home favorite, total 6 pretty much across the board in this game. Florida, I mean, tough spot for them here. Coming home off a long road trip, didn't end well, blown out by Winnipeg. Tough luck loss for Toronto. The Boogeyman's team, Bob Bugner, they basically needed to show up defensively after the Winnipeg debacle. They did. Played a pretty solid defensive game, but could not beat Frederick Anderson at the other end of the ice, a 1-0 loss to the Leafs the other night. Roberto Luongo, by the way, he's not going to get talked about in that game because Florida lost, but he played very good. That was his second start. He played against Calgary. They won that game, gave up 3 goals. It was better against Toronto, 1 goal allowed on 30 shots. So Roberto Luongo looks like he's getting more comfortable and more improving his play start by start as he gradually works his way back into rhythm and works his way back into form from that injury that kept him out for a long period of time. So interesting to see how this one goes. Washington, to me, I've got problems backing this team right now. They're not playing good. This is the team that defensively, they've lost their way. Braden Holtby's got a crisis of confidence going on right now. You're not seeing this team's penalty kill be anywhere where it's been in years past. And defensively, Barry Trotz has talked about this team improving and shoring that up multiple times during this recent week to 2 week stretch, and it hasn't happened. So I've got problems backing Washington right now, but at the same point in time, there's a brutal spot for Florida. So for me, it's a tough game to wrap my head around it, to be honest with you. But Dana Lane has wrapped his head around it. So has Alex, actually. This game's on both of their cards tonight, Capitals and the Panthers. Let's go to Dana Lane first. Caps, Panthers for you. Dana, what are you looking at in this game tonight?
Well, I can tell you, and the reason why I like to look at lines, Ian, is I look at this one, and on paper, without a line, I really like Washington. I mean, they're clearly the better of these two teams. But when a line comes out, some lines give me an opinion, or some lines say we have an opinion, and I think this opinion clearly states that the bookmakers like Florida. Now, if we are talking about bookmakers, well, we also know that bookmakers don't sit around watching a lot of hockey, because I've scratched my head about a lot of lines that have come out, and I'm maybe scratching my head a little bit about this one. I even getting even money at some books, but by the way, this is all over the place. Getting even money at some books is good with me. I mean, you're going to give me the better team, even if they're playing down in Florida. Now, I will say this. This is an important stretch for the Florida Panthers for sure. They start a 6-game home stretch. They play 11 out of their next 12 at home, and they're 7 points behind Columbus. So they need to start racking up some victories for sure. They won't leave the state of Florida until the 19th of March. So this is their time. And I don't think they can wait to the 19th of March, and in the next 7 to 10 days, and we'll see what happens after the trade deadline. But certainly, if they don't make a move soon, they're out. I mean, they have to leapfrog 5 teams, and I think this is a tough ask of Florida tonight. Yes, they've won 7 out of the last 10, but they've also lost 2 of those, and 2 of those losses have been back to back now, where they've only managed a couple goals. So the other thing about the Panthers too, I don't love, is their Corsi numbers are horrible, and let's break that down a little bit further. I need a team that can win some faceoffs. This team is not winning any faceoffs. They're not winning the puck possession battle. And if you're not winning the puck possession battle against the Capitals, they're going to make you pay. And so I have no problem taking the Capitals. The Panthers are playing their 4th game, and are playing their 4th game in 6 days. They have not fared well in this situation. In fact, the Panthers have dropped 11 of their last 12 in a fourth and six situation. So that doesn't bode well for the Panthers as well. And I think that Ovechkin and Backstrom and Wilson line has been they're starting to come to life. They had 28 points in their last 10 games combined. So that's a pretty good sign. At least we can rely on that line as well. And we know historically that the Capitals have had no problem beating the Florida Panthers, winning 15 of the last 21. So I'm taking Washington even money over the Panthers.
All right, Washington at even money. Yeah, in theory, this is a game where you got, after it lost to Tampa Bay, this is one you should win. You got to win if you're Washington. You're not playing good. This Florida team in a tough spot. And yeah, and I remember Washington playing in Florida earlier this season. Recently, I think it was a month or two ago. I had the over in that game. I think it was one of Harry Satteri's first starts in net for Florida, and Washington won that game pretty comfortably. Washington has dominated Florida over the years. It's been a very one-sided series in favor of the Capitals. Can this Capitals team now, the one that I've seen for the last 2 weeks, beat Florida now the way the other games have played out? Because this Washington team right now is concerning me, the way they're going, the way they're trending. So we'll see if they can right the ship tonight against a team in a very tough scheduling spot off a road trip. Dana says they can do it. Washington for him. Alex B. Smith, what are you looking at for this game tonight, Caps and Panthers?
Well, I'm right alongside him. I'm looking at Washington in this spot tonight. You look at that Florida game. I was on Florida. We talked about it on Tuesday's show. Roberto Luongo played well historically in his career against Toronto, and he had a hell of a performance, but he was outdueled by Freddie Anderson, who right now is arguably the best goaltender in the world. And Dana, you mentioned a really good point about this Florida team not winning faceoffs. It's what killed them at the end of that game. 3 key faceoffs in Toronto's zone late, and they lose all 3 of them. Just could never get a clear hold of the puck. Yeah. So
Yep.
and it's just that's a struggle with any team. So now you got them coming off of a long road trip, which they did pretty well until the very end, and coming off of a very tough loss, and now playing a Washington team that has dominated them, won 7 of the last 10 meetings in Florida, like I said, 15 of the last 21 overall. It's going to be hard to see where Florida, unless they get a huge jump early in this game, which I don't see. I think they're going to start this game kind of slow. I'm looking at playing Washington not only first period, but I'm also going to be playing them full game as well.
Yeah, actually, first period is not a bad thing to consider, because you're right. You would think you're going to get Washington coming out strong. I mean, they need this one, and they didn't come out. They came out horrible, and especially consider the way they came out against Tampa. Bing, bang, boom! It's 3-0. What? 12 minutes into that game the other night against the Lightning, they're down 3-0 before you can blink. So I'm sure Barry Trotz is saying we need to start on time. We got to use the Mike Babcock term. We need to start on time. The Washington Capitals need to start on time tonight. We'll see if they can do that. And you talked about the face-off scenario, not talked about enough. Winning face-offs, especially in the key moments of a game, late in a one-goal game, on a power play or on a penalty kill, winning those face-offs, it's so important. It's such a little thing on paper. It's a big thing when you're looking at the end results of these hockey games, winning those key faceoffs. The Leafs, fortunately, and you talked about Florida not being able to win a faceoff to save themselves down the stretch there. Leafs are blessed with some great faceoff guys. I mean, Matthews, Kadri, Bozak is one of the better faceoff guys in the NHL. I mean, very, very good faceoff people the Leafs can throw out there at any moment. So, and Florida just couldn't do anything about it. They're powerless to stop it. Couldn't win a faceoff when it mattered, and that's key when you're down 1 goal with the net empty. Trying to put on a push to tie the game, and a push that came up short for Florida tonight. We'll see if they come up short again tonight. Dana and Alex both think they will. San Jose, Nashville, 65-66 on the rotation. Nashville, minus 165, total 5.5, shaded to the under here, minus 120 in this game. Nashville, what more can you say? They're healthy. They got tourists back recently. They're coming off a couple of wins this week against Ottawa and Detroit. A little bit tricky spot here. We're talking about a Nashville team that the third game in 4 nights for them. And they went, Nashville, then they traveled to Detroit. Now you're back. It's not arduous travel. You're staying in the same time zone. Not the worst travel spot I've ever seen, but still, it's a lot of games in a short period of time. So we'll see if Nashville has that energy tank where it needs to be, taking on this San Jose Sharks team. At San Jose, give them credit. I mean, I don't know how they're doing it, because they're dealing with some key guys out of the lineup. They're banged up a little bit. San Jose is just still come into play every night, finding ways to win games against good teams in spite of it. I mean, give San Jose a lot of credit, give Pete DeBoer, head coach of the Sharks, a lot of credit, finding a way to keep this team plugging away, not making injuries an excuse. Because you look at this San Jose team, some of the guys that are out, we know Thornton obviously out for a while with that knee injury. Joel Ward missing time now with a shoulder injury. They've been without Tomas Hertl for a little bit with an upper body injury. And the San Jose Sharks team has found a way to keep on keeping on and find ways to compete, find ways to win. I mean, 3 straight wins for the San Jose team. Vancouver and Dallas at home start their road trip in St. Louis with a very impressive 3-2 win. Had to hang on a bit. Boy, that Blues push was very, very intense late in that game when they were down by a goal, but they were able to withstand it. They got solid goaltending down the stretch in that game from Martin Jones. So when you look at it, San Jose, give them credit with the injuries, but not just the injuries, but key guys out. They've managed to persevere, at least for now, keep on winning games. They're going to be up against it here, though, against Nashville, because Nashville's really had a good run against San Jose, particularly here in Music City. San Jose's staring at a 1-10 mark in their last 11 trips to Nashville. That's not very good by any stretch of the imagination, but this team is finding ways to compete in games. So for me, I think Nashville wins this game. Obviously, I'm not going to lay the money line, but San Jose's been a very hard team to beat by margin, beat at all lately, let alone beat by margin. So the puck line doesn't really even interest me here in this game all that much. So for me, game I'm probably going to end up staying away from when it's all said and done. But give San Jose credit. I mean, that win in St. Louis last night, when you're down some key artillery up front on this hockey team, really impressive with that. With what the Sharks were able to do the other night in the Gateway City, taking down the St. Louis Blues on the road with some key cogs out of the lineup. Next game up, we've got Calgary taking on Arizona, 67-68 here. We've got no line. We've got Calgary off a 7-3 thumping beatdown at the hands of the Vegas Golden Knights. I stressed this before on the show. Why bet against the Vegas Golden Knights off a loss? I mean, they're beyond marvelous in that spot. They lost a rare home loss the other night against Anaheim. It was just one of those games. Passes weren't clicking. Passes were in people's skates. Shots were being missed. People were falling down left and right. I don't know. It's like the ice was slick, extra slick or something at T-Mobile against Anaheim. It was just one of those games. Nothing was in sync offensively for Vegas. Well, I'd say it was in sync last night against the Calgary Flames. Wow. 7 spot against a guy that was coming off his best performance in net as a Calgary Flame. And David Riddick was beyond good in the game against Boston, even though they ended up losing that game in overtime. He was fantastic in that game, and back down to earth for him in a big way last night against the Golden Knights. So impressive stuff from Vegas. Calgary looking to bounce back. In theory, I like this Calgary team on the road more than I like them at home. We talked about how this Calgary team just can't win games at the Saddledome. I don't know what it is. They've got one of the worst home records in the NHL, but their road record's good, 17-9 for the Calgary Flames on the highway this season, which is pretty good. They've always been a solid road team over the years, but particularly this year. But it's a little bit of a tricky spot for them. They played Monday, played last night against Vegas. This is another team facing a 3rd game in 4 nights scenario. Not very easy for Calgary here to have to handle that by any stretch of the imagination. Also 4th game in 6 nights. So, that those add up. They've lost 3 straight. Confidence is waning a little bit. On the other side, you got Arizona finding ways to win games. Last couple games, they got outshot. That's the one concern. They've sort of been living on the edge here, Arizona, these last 2 games. With the 5-2 win against Montreal, they got outshot 36-21. With the 1-0 win against Edmonton, 40-32, they were outshot, but they won, and they had a very fortuitous call go their way in that Edmonton game as well, the one that Cam Talbot was not too happy about. Nevertheless, all that being said, okay, a little fortuitous based on the possession, the offensive zone time, and the shots the last few games for Arizona to get these 2 wins. But still, nevertheless, still talking about a team that's 4-1 their last 5 games, that are currently playing their best hockey of the season right now. They're playing with some confidence. They're finally starting to find the back of the net just a little bit, and Calgary in a tough scheduling spot. So for me, I'll wait to see what the price is here on this game, but an Arizona bet wouldn't be crazy for me. In fact, that's something I'd be kind of interested in here. We'll see. Calgary's just in a really tough situation here from a scheduling spot. Fourth game in 6 nights, back-to-back after the Vegas game last night, now going to Arizona. So we'll see where the number comes out. But my lean right now would be on the Coyotes here, taking on the Calgary Flames in this one. Next up, Colorado, Edmonton, 69-70. Edmonton minus 135. Home favorite, the total 6, pretty much across the board in this hockey game. Colorado, what a job the other night. I mean, down early in that hockey game against the Vancouver Canucks, looked like things weren't going to go their way. They get 2 big-time goals in the latter stages of the second period. That turned a 4-1 Vancouver lead into a 4-3 Vancouver lead, and that was at that sense when Colorado, I think they're going to come back and win this thing. I actually jumped in on Colorado intermission bet going into the third period because I sensed the momentum was starting to flow their way with those 2 late second period goals, and they rode those. They finally got the game tied in the third period, then a Nathan McKinnon blast on the power play in overtime to come all the way back and beat the Vancouver Canucks 5-4 in their last game. Now they take on this woe-begotten Edmonton team that actually played pretty good hockey against Boston for 2 periods. And then once the roof caved in, Boston got that 2-1 goal. It was almost like it was good night. Boston came on. The confidence, which is already waning to begin with on this Edmonton team, evaporated. Boston ties it, gets the late goal to go ahead 3-2 and obviously win that game. The Bruins come back from a 2-0 hole to beat the Oilers 3-2 the other night. So real impressive comeback from Boston, and another frustrating, maddening, sickening loss, one of many this season for the Edmonton Oilers. I got no problem jumping in on Colorado here at an underdog price, none whatsoever. I mean, that team, great comeback the other night against Vancouver. They've got a lot to play for, and this is meaningful revenge situation, short turnaround revenge. Colorado, in a performance that Jared Bednar, the head coach, described as flat. We weren't ready. We sort of assumed we'd be able to coast in this game and win it when they played against Edmonton on the weekend in Colorado. And Edmonton took advantage and rallied in the third period from a deficit to beat Colorado at the Pepsi Center over the weekend. I believe 4-2 is the final in that game for Edmonton. So, Colorado in a short turnaround revenge spot. Colorado the better team, to be honest with you, and catching plus 115 in this game as an underdog. Absolutely. No brainer for me. Colorado plus 115. Dana Lane's also in on the Avs Oilers tonight. Dana, what are you looking at in this matchup?
Yeah, that's a good point about the revenge spot. I was going to bring that up as well, and I know they've split the series this year on 1 apiece, but I love that short-term revenge spot situation. And I'm going to go back to the well again. I mean, we had Colorado the other night, and I love this plus price against Edmonton. I mean, really, how can you rely on the Oilers to cash any tickets for you right now? I mean, this is a team that's getting virtually no production out of anybody that isn't named Connor McDavid, and actually Draisaitl's actually played well, a little bit better as well, but they're really not getting a ton of production from anybody else. And it's kind of interesting. I was talking to a Edmonton Oilers radio analyst the other day, and we were talking as they were in town here to play the Golden Knights, and I said, "Geez, you know what? The last time Edmonton was in town, I mean, they're one of the fastest teams that I've seen live this year. I mean, I thought Detroit was extremely fast as well, and I said, but they kind of leave Vegas and they become uninspired again." And he just says, you know what? They get engaged with certain teams. They get engaged with Vegas. They're engaged with Tampa. They're engaged with Boston. And even though they dropped the game the other night against the Bruins, they have a fantastic record against those top teams in the league. And to me, when you tell me that they're not getting engaged against teams, that's telling me they don't have a lot of heart. And I've said it from day one. Even though this team didn't win a Stanley Cup, their bellies were fat they were full when they came into this current season. They thought it was going to be easy. They thought that the trip back to the conference final or the Stanley Cup final was a foregone conclusion. And so that's why I think, hi, Andrew, how are you? That's good. Good to see you, buddy. So tonight I wonder, how do they get engaged against the Colorado Avalanche? I mean, I don't know. I mean, if I'm Edmonton, this is one of these games where I just kind of I coast through again. There's no getting engaged for Avalanche team. Patrick Maroon also didn't practice yesterday with the Oilers, and some say it's a maintenance day. There's kind of fuzzy news on whether or not that there was an injury or not. My gut feeling it was kind of a maintenance day, but you do have to factor in that if Maroon is not ready to go tonight, then that means Lucic is going to play on that top line. So can you imagine Lucic trying to keep up with their top line? And I just see a complete discombobulation between the lines, especially that first line. If that's something that happens tonight, you're going to give me a plus price with a team that's playing much better right now. I'm going to take the Avalanche plus $1.25-ish.
All right, Colorado plus 115. Agreement from Dana and I on that game. We both like Colorado in this hockey game tonight, taking on the Edmonton Oilers. And a good situation. We talked about the short-term revenge spot. Talked about it with Detroit Nashville the other night, and it worked out to perfection. Nashville looking to avenge a home loss to Detroit on the road, and they were able to take care of business and beat the Red Wings in that hockey game. So we'll see if Colorado able to follow suit with a victory here against Edmonton tonight. Andrew McGinnis has joined us. Of the games we've talked about to this point, Andrew, the floor is going to be yours for the next couple minutes. It's all yours. Anything between the Minnesota game and the Edmonton game on the card that is on your card tonight, Andrew, the floor is yours. Take it away. What are you looking at?
All right, I won't take up too much time. I know I apologize to you guys, most importantly, and for obviously the viewers, but I have to ask a question real quick because I'm not sure if either two of the lower half of the screen guys have said anything, but I was up pretty late watching that Canada-USA game, and that has to be partly of the reason why I ended up falling back to sleep because I was up pretty early this morning actually getting ready for the show. So here I am now, and we're ready to go, but yeah, congratulations to Team USA. I'm still going to say that I was worth staying up late to watch, but up until about 4 o'clock in the morning, my time to watch a shootout loss. Kind of tough to watch a team lose by a shootout, but nonetheless, that's just the way it is. No, guys, I'm keeping it short and simple, actually, early on for today. Just looking at the Washington Capitals against the Florida Panthers right now, I think that the way that Washington's been playing right now, the way that they respond after a loss, especially the way that they really been putting wins together. And against this Florida Panthers team, I just don't think that they're consistent enough whatsoever. I mean, they're averaging 2.91 goals per game, 34 shots in the season, guys. But if you look at their last couple of games here, they just can't develop any type of consistency whatsoever. I mean, dating back to, let's look at the February 14th against Vancouver Canucks, 4-3 win, pretty solid win. They're paying minus 110, easy game kind of there. Then Calgary, they put up 6 goals against them, plus 122, great game for them. Then out of nowhere, they play Winnipeg. They lose 7-2. Then Toronto, 1-0. And in my eyes, guys, that game against Toronto was a huge game. That game was a kind of a statement game for them. Everyone was kind of looking forward to that game, seeing how Toronto would play against them, seeing how they would react against Toronto. And I think that Toronto's actually kind of making headway right now. And it really proved to me really how crappy of a team Florida really is. And at the line that we were getting, the opening line that we really got at minus 110, minus 115 with this Washington Capitals team, I'm looking at them right now, but I'm also looking at the over. The total has gone over in 9 of Washington's last 12 games, 8 of the last 10 on the road, and 4 of the last 6 when playing Florida. So I think these two teams right now, I think Florida is due right now. I mean, their last 2 games, they've kind of gotten pummeled. They haven't looked really like themselves. But I just think collectively right now, Washington, they're finding a way. And like I mentioned, they're one of those teams that's really good to look at off a loss. It's kind of, they remind me of Nashville in the Western Conference. I kind of feel the same way about them. They had that 4-2 loss against Tampa Bay, and in my opinion, that was a key game, guys. That was a big game for them. I mean, you got these two teams in the Eastern Conference that are trying to make something of themselves. And I'm always joking around about this Washington Capitals team because I think that they're choke artists in the playoffs. I mean, they might as well just kind of clear the bench a little bit because realistically, it doesn't matter if you can do great in the regular season. If you can't do anything in the playoffs, it really doesn't matter. If you can't be a playoff team and advance your team to the Stanley Cup finals, if you can't get to another Eastern Conference finals, then you really didn't do your job, especially if you're finishing first in the East every single year. It's just not really acceptable. And I think that they're starting to realize that, and they have to mix things up and create a playoff caliber team for themselves. So for me right now, just guys, I'm going to keep it very simple. I'm going to give out the Washington Capitals money line. I'm going to give out the Washington Capitals game over versus the Florida Panthers at 5.5. I expect even a 6 to come up at some places, and I'm perfectly fine with that. I think it should be a rather high-scoring game, rather sloppy game. I just think right now, with the track record this Florida had in their past 2 or 3 games, they're bound to take some chances. They're bound to take some risks. They're bound to fire tons and tons and tons of shots on goal against this Washington team right now. So over and Washington money line official plays for me.
I actually had a look at the over in that game. I don't know, Luongo, we'll see if he can do it again, but that was a great performance from him the other night. I was considering it. Didn't end up getting there with it, but we'll see. But it has been some higher scoring games at times between the Capitals and Panthers. Was that the only game, Andrew, or is that it?
Yeah, I know. I'm just keeping it simple these days, Ian. Just going with those 2 plays on the one game right now, and then I'll have a best bet for you in a few minutes here.
All right, very good. On we go. Last game on the card, Dallas, LA, 71-72. LA minus 120. Total 5.5 shaded to the under in this hockey game. Dallas Stars, where did that offense go last night against the Anaheim Ducks? Couldn't find any of their big guns with a telescope on the ice. What was Ben doing? What was Seguin doing? Absolutely nothing. Jack shit from that group as far as I'm concerned. In terms of finish, they had chances, but just couldn't bury them. Ryan Miller was great in net. For the Dallas Stars, or for the Anaheim Ducks against the Dallas Stars, a 2-0 shutout victory for Anaheim in that game. For the Dallas Stars, all of a sudden, where's their offense? I mean, this is now 4 games. They're 1-3 their last 4, 2 goals or less in all 4 games. 4 goals combined in the 4 games. So they're averaging 1 goal a game in the last 4. That's not good from a team we know they've got the offensive potency to be better than that. But they haven't been lately. And even a couple of games, the shots on goal have dropped. Usually this team's good for 30 shots or more a game. A couple of these games, they only fired 16 at the net against St. Louis, 28 against San Jose. Much better last night against Anaheim. But some of those shots, too, were not as high quality or dangerous as they could have been. You have to keep that in mind. Still a good performance from Ryan Miller, though, overall for the Anaheim Ducks, 2-0 loss. So all of a sudden this team's got a little bit of an offensive struggle to overcome here. Offensively challenged right now a little bit, this Dallas Stars team, which is surprising. And that may be bad news against LA, because one thing LA we know is defensively they're pretty solid. How about Dion Phaneuf? He's just going nuts since joining the LA Kings. He's saying, I'm going to be scoring goals, assists, putting up points left and right. What a start for him with the LA Kings. Dion Phaneuf, amazing stuff. And look at the record for the LA Kings since Dion Phaneuf's been there. I don't want to make it sound like he's got a resurgence or revitalization of his career or anything here, but we're talking about 3-1 for the LA Kings with Dion Phaneuf as a LA King. The only loss was Pittsburgh on the very first game he played as a LA King, so nothing to be upset about there. After that, they beat Buffalo, Chicago, and Winnipeg. How about the Winnipeg win on the road? 4-3. Real impressive from the LA Kings. Tough scheduling spot. We talked about that the other night, too, in Winnipeg. The travel piling up on this team. That was the end of a brutal 7-game road trip through different time zones, playing the second night of back-to-back games, and the third game in 4 nights in Winnipeg against a red-hot Jets team, and you win it 4-3. Wow. Great job by the LA Kings. Give them credit. Fantastic win. Is this the game where they feel it, though? Now they're back home. This is a big-time negative spot for LA from a scheduling perspective. Big-time negative. 7-game road trip. Now you're finally back home. You ended it with a great amount of success. 3 straight wins to end that road trip. Is this where maybe you hit the wall a little bit? That is my concern. But on the flip side, do I trust Dallas right now? After what I saw last night, can't finish any of their chances right now consistently these last 4 games. I'm not sure I can trust them. So it's a good spot, better spot for Dallas, even with them on a second night of back-to-backs off a loss, a shutout loss. That's a good bet on situation, but I don't know if I trust them here, even though it's a tough scheduling spot for LA. I'm not liking what I'm seeing from Dallas offensively right now. They got to find a way to put a puck in the net, I think, before I can back them. And let's be honest, the price isn't really all that satisfactory for me here at about plus 100, plus 105 in this game on the road here with Dallas. So I'll be out of this game. Dana Lane is not, though. Dana's involved with the Stars and the Kings tonight. Dana, what are you looking at here? Can Dallas get this offense going tonight?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people bring up that first game home thing. And I kind of look at this a little bit different. I mean, they played 2 nights ago. They've been home for a while. I mean, I know, and not only have they been home for a while, but I feel like that they should be feeling great about themselves. And here's the caveat. Here's the spark to this. The LA Kings just got through making a deal. Of course, sending Darcy Kemper to Arizona, and Wedgwood comes over to LA. And I think sometimes,
and Tobias,
if
I just want to jump in Tobias Reeder as well. And the Kings were after Tobias Reeder for a very, very long time. They were looking into getting that guy and trading for him. They wanted to bolster that offense up front, put him in as a legitimate top 6 forward threat. So they've been in on Tobias Reeder for a while. They finally got it done, and I think he's going to help that team. I really do.
Yeah, so any letdown that the Kings might have, I think probably has been erased by a deal. A deal. I've seen teams. I've been around teams after they've made a deal, and there's kind of a pep and a step and a jump in everybody's games. And I think that this is more of a situation where not only do the Kings want to show off who they are right now, but I think they got to be feeling great about themselves after the trip, especially the game last game against Winnipeg, as you pointed out, was a horrific spot from a Dallas standpoint. After the loss last night, they're now 6th in the Western Conference, a team that was supposed to be a team that could be in the Stanley Cup final. And I'm not saying that they ultimately still won't. They got a ton of talent on that team. But I also said during the season, I wrote a column for SBR saying, just hang tight, man, because you take all these teams that make all these different moves, and I'm telling you, it takes a couple years, not a year, unless you're the Miami Heat, to win championships. And I think that you're kind of seeing that a little bit. I mean, sometimes there's not enough pucks to go around, and these teams kind of go through lulls. And I wonder what would happen when they're playing quality opponents every single night. But I do like the Darcy Kemper trade, and also from a standpoint of from Jonathan Quick. I think that even though his numbers haven't been great as of late, I think he's basically been told by the LA Kings, "You are our man." So if I'm Jonathan Quick, if you put yourself in his position, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to go out and prove them right, and I'm not going to let my organization down. So I think you're going to get even more of an inspired effort. And what that means is, and I hear people say this all the time. I know we got some time, so let me take it all up. What that basically means is, when people say, well, I think they're going to be real focused or real inspired. Guys, these guys play 82 games a year. Okay. Every single game you cannot get up for. Okay. I'm the same person every day, but I'm a little bit different of a person on a Monday morning than I am a Friday morning. I can tell you that. So you're the same person for sure, but I'm a little bit more inspired to get to work and knock out my stuff, because I know a big Saturday is coming. And that's kind of the difference. So when I say, or any other person says, I really think that a specific player is going to have a focused effort or an inspired effort, that means I think they're going to be engaged, to use that word again. So I think that we're going to get that out of LA. I think we're going to get that out of Jonathan Quick moving forward. I do wish, and I love I do love the Phaneuf move for sure. I mean, not only is this a guy, you talk about a guy playing inspired hockey, but it also makes them just that much tougher. And I know there's some guys that say about the Vegas Golden Knights, well, the one problem is they don't have any tough guys. The only tough guy on the team right now is probably Will Carrier, and he's not playing. And so people worry about them when they go into the postseason, whether or not they're going to be physical enough. I don't get so excited about that, because you know how you beat physicality, you move the puck quick, and that's what they're really good at. But others feel that way. But I do think also the one problem that the Kings have really come up against lately is just they're allowing too many shots on net. And of course, that Jonathan Quick's save percentage is fantastic, but his record isn't all that good. So I think that if their defensemen start laying out a little bit, Forbert and Alec Martinez, if they start really committing to that defensive hockey, the kind of the way that they played last season, I think that they are going to be a force to be reckoned with moving forward. But I'm telling you guys, I sat at T-Mobile last night and I'm watching the scores, and I kept seeing 0 for Dallas and 0 for Dallas. And of course, I can't see what's going on, but I do know this. Um, they played a physical Ducks team last night, and I know it's only a 45-minute drive between Staples Center and Honda and the Honda Center. But I can't think that the Dallas Stars are in a good spot right now. They scored 4 goals in their last 4 games. They're not getting any production from any line, a little production down the middle, but really there is no line that you can point to on this Stars team and say, okay, that's where our offense is coming. And if I can't point to a line right now and expect any kind of offense, why would I back them financially until I can see some form or some offense that's going to give me some confidence. And for the Kings, one side note, Jeff Carter can start practice and he's not going to be playing tonight. But good news again for the Kings is they're kind of rounding into form. But I love LA tonight to beat Dallas.
All right, LA, negative spot aside, they're the team in better form right now. Can't argue with that. Definitely, LA's playing better hockey than Dallas right now, no question. But Dana says they can overcome this first home game spot, take care of business against the struggling Stars. Dallas for him, or LA for him, minus 120 is Dana's play. And Alex B. Smith, he's also involved in the Stars Kings. Is this going to be an agreement with LA, or is this going to be a no, Lee Corso, not so fast, my friends moment? What do you got, Alex, here in this game?
Well, I don't really have either side in this game. I was actually going to be looking at a total here, but the main key I wanted to bring up is, of course, like I said, we talk about the first game back from a long road trip, and two things that kind of always make things a little iffy with this spot is that, one, you have a team like LA. Yes, they're coming home off of a long trip with different time zones, but the fact that they've won 3 games in a row kind of makes it a little different. They're coming back, with it's different than, say, with the Florida spot, where Florida's coming off of 2 really tough losses after winning games. I think that makes it a little bit different, makes it a little easier to back LA in this spot. And I also found it interesting that LA trading Darcy Kemper, who's the guy who had started in the last game when they played against Dallas, had a 4-0 shutout, and he had pretty much most of his career starts. He's had more career starts against Dallas than any other team in the league, and now he's gone. Scott Wedgwick comes in, so obviously it's going to be Jonathan Quick starting against Kari Lettinen. We've, countless times we talk about Kari letting him in, a guy who's just, kind of always been mid-range, especially against this LA Kings team. I think we could see some offense on both sides here. You look at that Dallas team; they had a chance to get back into that game last night with Anaheim. Back-to-back penalties that were delayed games for Anaheim, and had a 5-on-3 shot, and they completely blew it. So I think we're going to see a bit more focused offensively from a Dallas team. We know that when they turn it on, they can score some goals, and I think LA is going to keep that momentum and actually play a little bit better than we see a lot of teams, especially West Coast teams, coming home off of first game stand. So I would look at this game possibly going over that total.
All right, I'll lean to the over for Alex in this Stars and Kings game, and lots of good talk on the chat about the brutality of a penalty kick shootout in soccer, and I hate that stuff. I've said that time and time again. It's absolutely brutal that you might see a World Cup champ in soccer decided by a penalty kick shootout if it's tied after extra time. Could you imagine? Could you imagine in baseball after 10, they have 1 inning of extra innings, 10 innings, it's still tied World Series Game 7. No, home run derby now. That's going to decide the World Series. 5 guys on the other team, 5 guys on the other. They're going to have more home runs wins. They would be burning down Rob Manfred's house. Believe me on that. If that ever happened in Major League Baseball, that would not fly. Home run derby to decide a World Series.
They should
champion.
play. Ian, they should play 4-on-4 if they go to extra innings.
Yeah. 4-on-4, exactly. They should at least. They should in soccer do that. 3-on-3.
Sacrifice an outfielder, maybe.
Score.
Just 2 outfielders.
Yeah. Problem is the field's too friggin' big. That's the problem.
I know.
Just too much running to do.
Sacrifice
the
the catcher. That would make it better.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, you got
to catcher. That would make it more interesting.
Alex, yeah. I like the tweet that you had the other day. You said everyone that's complaining about how long baseball games are should just stop watching baseball. Then it's so true. I mean, it does drag on as a lot of catchers visiting the mound a lot, but it's getting to too much, guys. Like, I know you guys watch baseball as well. People are complaining so much. I mean, if you don't like it, if you don't like how long it is, then just tune in for the last few innings. Like, deal with it. I feel like there's just so much complaining.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't
exactly.
understand. I mean, who if you're dividing 3 hours of your time, we do it for football games, of course. I mean, they're getting 5 hours long too. That's for a different reason. But I mean, baseball it's a long sport. It's not like soccer where it's 90 minutes and if it's a tie, it's a tie. It's a sport. It's based on field. It's based on time. There's no reason to. At the same time, everybody wants to see more offense. That's what stretches out a game. I've been to a ton of White Sox games growing up where they score 20 runs and it's 4.5 hours because there's a bunch of stops, a bunch of pitching changes. When it's a good pitching duel, usually about an hour and a half, 2 hours. So you can't have it both ways. It's just a long sport. It's the way it goes.
You know what's also ridiculous too? Unlimited substitution is not allowed in soccer. Could you imagine if LeBron James is banged up? I don't know, takes an elbow to the head. He's got to get checked out for concussion or whatever, but he's fine. You mean you can't put him back in? What kind of bullshit is that? You can't put the guy back in? What the? Anyway, that's enough of that. There's a bunch of things about soccer that bother me. That's why I prefer.
So I take it our very own
every
Ian
single
Cameron
day.
does not go to TFC games. Is that a fair assumption?
No, but I do want them to do well. There's elements of soccer I enjoy, but there's way more that I don't, and that's why I've never been able to fully gravitate to it. So that's my issue with that. What's not an issue lately is best bets on the show, which have done quite well. We'll hope to serve up 4 more best bets for this Thursday card. Let's start with let's go top to bottom this time. Andrew McGinnis, best bet for you on this Thursday slate.
All right, guys. Well, you know what? I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys had to say about this game. When after the show, I'm going to look back and see what was said. But look, first of all, Peter Mrazek making his first start for Philadelphia. They're 7-1, last 8 overall, 5-1 the last 6 games following a win. 5-1 their last 6 versus an Eastern Conference. 4-1 their last 5 games playing on 1 day's rest. But one stat I found interesting here is, first of all, 7-3 in the last 10 games at home, which is huge. Philadelphia, they're a big home team, and also they're 6-2 in the last 8 after allowing 2 goals or more or less in their previous game. So I think that right now with this Philadelphia team, I'm always talking about this Philadelphia team, just their top guns, their top guys that they have, the guys that they're solely reliant on. And I think Giroux, Couturier, Konechny, and even Simmons right now not in the lineup, but even Nolan Patrick, guys. The last time that I talked about this Philadelphia Flyers team on the Ice Guys show, all I really had to say about him was he's not being too much of a standout right now, but he will improve. He will adapt into the league. And everyone always seems, unless the number 1 or number 2 or number 3 overall pick is, doing everything, scoring a shit ton of goals, making the highlight reel every night, making all these great plays, having this personality. Everyone always likes to bash on these top 3 picks, top 2 picks. But you know what? He is fitting in great now. He's meshing with these top 2 lines. He's exactly what this Philadelphia Flyers team needs. He fits in very well. The chemistry seems to be there. And right now, this Columbus Blue Jackets team is not really my favorite team to look at whatsoever. I think they've been the most consistent thing about this team has been their inconsistency. I think this is going to be rather a low-scoring game, but I think that it should be more of a 3-1, actually, maybe 3-1, 3-2 kind of game and for Philadelphia's favor. I just think that right now, looking at it on the season, guys, they're averaging about 3.1 goals per game. Columbus just 2.65 goals. And in their last couple of games, guys, also Nick Foligno is injured. But in their last couple of games, if you look dating back, they played Philadelphia on the 16th. They lost 2-1. It was another low-scoring game. But following that loss, they lost 5-2 to Pittsburgh. Then they had a 2-1 game against New Jersey. So for me, what that really tells me, first of all, New Jersey's all right, but that's nothing really to be too proud of. It tells me, guys, that they can't keep up with these talented teams. I'm always talking about how certain teams, certain games, certain matchups are going to be low scoring. They need to keep it tight. And sometimes it's not always, my wish isn't always granted. But when I see this Columbus team right now, the talent level doesn't seem to be there. The will, honestly, doesn't really seem to be there in a lot of their games. They're really hanging out their goalies to dry. And I think that sometimes, it's give or take when you have a goalie making their first start. But I think that right now, he's going to a team that actually has a little bit of potential, that's been playing well lately, that has some star power in front of him, that has some consistency. And I think that Mrazek will play really well tonight in his very first start, guys. Look to see a lot of offense. And I'm going with the Philadelphia Flyers in my best bet. And I also have the Washington Capitals money line and the over in that Washington game as my plays on this Ice Guys show.
All right, Flyers best bet for Andrew. We're up against the clock. Dana, quickly, best bet.
Guys, I mean, we talk about teams coming off their road trips, and If you look at the Kings historically, they've been fine. In fact, the Kings are 36-17-1, coming off of a road trip of 7 games or more, or 7 days or more, which certainly qualifies for this road trip. I love the Kings tonight, minus a 28-25 against the Dallas Stars.
All right, Kings for Dana. Alex, best bet.
New Jersey Devils, they've won 5 straight meetings and 7 of the last 10 meetings against the Minnesota Wild. I'm seeing one shop with a line at around the pick 'em price. So New Jersey minus $1.05, $1.10. That would be my best bet for tonight.
All right, for me, Colorado plus 115, best bet. Better team favored. A better team is the underdog there. We'll go with Colorado plus 115. That'll wrap up the show. For Alex, for Andrew, for Dana, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Enjoy the Thursday card. We'll see you again on Saturday.